Imagine stepping into the swirling vortex of the UFC universe on a single electrifying week where every headline crashes into the next like thunderclaps during a monsoon, beginning with the seismic revelation that Dana White himself would be appearing on Instagram Live to drop what he enigmatically described as a huge announcement, a phrase so tantalizingly vague that wild theories ignited across social media. Could it finally be confirmation that Ilia Topuria, the merciless Basque bruiser with a perfect blend of wrestling acumen and submission artistry, would lock horns with Charles "Do Bronx" Oliveira, the Brazilian dynamo whose record-shattering ascent through the lightweight ranks has been as breathtaking as it has been unpredictable? For the UFC 317 main event, a showdown fans have clamored for since Do Bronx reclaimed his form with an astonishing display of heart and technique. Or might it instead herald the long-anticipated official unveiling of Jon Jones against Tom the Juggernaut Aspinall, a collision of two of the sport's most complete light heavyweight phenoms? A matchup that has simmered on the rumor mill's back burners since Aspinall's meteoric rise in 2020 and Jones's controversial departure from heavyweight glory? Yet before that earth-shattering declaration, the MMA community was already aflame with anticipation, fueling a torrent of speculation that if both confirmations dropped in one fell swoop, it would not only rewrite record books, but also redefine the concept of a blockbuster fight card, sending pay-per-view buys through the stratosphere and cementing UFC 317 as one of the most financially successful events in promotional history. Meanwhile, in a parallel digital spectacle, Jon Jones commandeered an Instagram Live session of his own, seemingly responding to the swirling gossip that he was ducking Aspinall, and delivered a blistering retort as casual as it was cutting, declaring that he was living my absolute best life, and challenging the very notion that thriving outside the cage could equate to cowardice inside it. His calm, almost dismissive tone served as a masterclass in turning the tables on critics, transforming what was intended as a slight into a moment of unshakable confidence that only stoked the public's fascination with his next move. But that wasn't the full tapestry of intrigue. At the same time, Daniel Cormier, the former light heavyweight and heavyweight champion who had twice sacrificed his body to challenge Jones in two of the sport's greatest rivalries, made a revelation on his own YouTube channel that he had been offered the chance to coach against Bones on the Russian franchise of The Ultimate Fighter, a series now cleverly rebranded as ALF Reality, filmed in Thailand and featuring a star-studded cast of international prospects. DC confessed that, despite his undying respect for the sport, he simply couldn't stomach the idea of spending an entire month on the opposite side of the world, locked in a coaching war with the man who delivered the most decisive loss of his career. At 46 years old, facing the logistics of extended travel, time zone shifts, and the psychological burden of preparing to confront an opponent he cannot legally fight again, Cormier opted out, a decision that laid bare the human fragility behind the warrior persona and underscored that even legends must weigh pride against practicality. Meanwhile, in a twist that spoke volumes about Dana White's perpetual quest for excellence, the UFC's outspoken president appeared on South Korea's Looking for a Fight series and publicly lavished praise on the referees and judges from Korean Zombie's Z Fight Night promotion, lauding their crisp command of the action, consistency in scoring, and apparent dedication to fighter safety. Remarks so pointed that they suggested White might solicit those same officials to augment or even replace portions of the UFC's officiating roster, a move that would mark a radical departure from the status quo and serve as a reminder that the Octagon's guardians are under as much scrutiny as the athletes themselves. As the dust settled from that pronouncement, Ariel Helwani, the MMA desk's premier insider, turned his attention to another conundrum: the labyrinthine puzzle of Islam Makhachev's next fight, as the Dagestani disciple of the legendary Khabib Nurmagomedov seemed poised to scale to a second title by first headlining the UFC's International Fight Week card, an honor historically reserved for the sport's marquee attractions. But against whom? Helwani postulated that Makhachev could square off with Ilia Topuria, who himself had carved a perfect record and captivated fans with a blend of ferocity and finesse, before swiftly ascending to welterweight to challenge Jack Della Maddalena, also known as the Don, the Australian southpaw sensation who recently demolished Bilal Muhammad with a blend of surgical striking and suffocating grappling, yet in a display that left observers agape.
If I'm being completely honest, I feel like Tom's been such an asshole that I don't want to do business with him. You know, it's just like his fans have been so annoying. And obviously you don't get this far in a career being affected by fans or whatnot. But he's
The UFC stubbornly refused to officially announce any main event for June 28th, an unprecedented scheduling silence that seemed to defy the promotion's own deadlines and left the global MMA faithful in a state of impatient limbo. And as that calendar date loomed ever closer, pundits like Sean Brady and interim bantamweight champion Aljamain Sterling publicly lambasted Makhachev's perceived tone deafness in hastily tweeting a challenge to Della Maddalena without acknowledging the Australian's recent victory or offering customary respect, suggesting that even the most elite athletes must navigate the subtle art of public relations lest they risk alienating peers and fans alike. Yet another twist in the week's narrative emerged when Shavkat Rakhmonov, the undefeated Kazakh nomad whose dazzling debut victory over Ian Gary at UFC 310 suggested he was the welterweight division's next unstoppable force, suffered a knee injury requiring surgery, sidelining him for an estimated 2 to 3 months of rehabilitation. His coach, Edward Bazarov, revealed that while the operation was successful, the road to full mobility and ring readiness would stretch into late fall or early winter, a timeline that promised to upend the division's pecking order and potentially deny Rakhmonov his long-promised shot at championship gold. Then came the saga of Tom Aspinall, the interim heavyweight champion who, with an almost everyman humility, praised Jon Jones as close to a perfect MMA fighter as you can get, citing Bones's unparalleled versatility in seamlessly blending orthodox power, striking with southpaw fluidity, a wrestling foundation that could turn any takedown attempt into a scramble or a scramble into a submission threat, and an exceptional chin that had absorbed punishment few could endure. Yet Aspinall was quick to inject a sobering caveat, invoking father time, highlighting the cumulative effect of concussive punches over a 15-year career and expressing belief that a calculated assault over 5 relentless rounds could catch Jones off guard, an admission that transformed the widely perceived underdog into a strategic tactician banking on one perfectly placed strike to alter the course of MMA history. As these high-profile narratives interwove,
Jon Jones is probably watching this, so send him a message.
Hello, John. I have nothing against you personally, but I just think I'm better than you. I just know that I can beat you in a fight, so I'm coming for it.
analysis turned back to UFC 315's aftermath, a card headlined by Jack Della Madalena's title victory over Belal Muhammad, a fight that saw the Australian's striking precision and defensive wrestling stifle the championship grit of Muhammad, yet paradoxically elevated Muhammad's standing in the eyes of fans and experts alike. Former middleweight champion Michael Bisping asserted that Muhammad's willingness to stand and trade, absorb punishing shots, and rally momentarily won newfound respect despite the loss, while Ariel Helwani condemned narratives branding Muhammad one of the worst champions ever, arguing that such hyperbole ignored the heart and resilience that define true warriors. Meanwhile, Derek Brunson dissected the bout through the lens of game plan execution, contending that Muhammad's corner misread the fight by expecting a stand-up contest when his historical strength lay in grappling dominance, and Henry Cejudo, the dual division legend, lamented the absence of early takedown attempts, suggesting that Muhammad's failure to implement his characteristic cage control wrestling represented a missed strategic opportunity. Together, these expert critiques illustrated how a single fight can yield as many divergent takeaways as the number of seats in the arena.
I could be a champion, and it just made me angry, and it just made me want to push myself a lot harder. So I went out there, got with the best team in the world, with Habib's team, and I just leveled up, I think.
Did you feel like with that disrespect that would a win have?
But just as intense as the official bouts were the unscripted dramas playing out on social media, such as the viral footage of John Silva, the number 11 ranked featherweight, who, during a fan meet and greet, locked a willing fan into a rear naked choke for a photo, but then refused to release the hold even after the fan repeatedly tapped and his partner pleaded for mercy. The ensuing backlash from fans decried the apparent lack of control and questioned the ethics of fan-to-sleep trends, prompting debates about consent, responsibility, and the fine line between publicity stunts and potential liability. While Silva's later lighthearted post-choke reaction did little to assuage critics who saw the incident as a stark reminder that fighters are answerable not only in the octagon, but in every public interaction. And as if all that weren't enough to keep the MMA cosmos whirling, Fox Entertainment dropped the tantalizing news that they would revive the hit reality series Fear Factor, reigniting discussions about whether Joe Rogan, the ubiquitous UFC commentator whose booming voice has narrated countless epic moments and who hosted Fear Factor for 7 seasons between 2001 and 2006, would return to helm Fear Factor: The Next Chapter. Rogan's meteoric rise from stand-up comedian to podcast patriarch and gym entrepreneur has transformed him into a household name whose schedule is already jam-packed with UFC events, podcast recordings 6 days a week, and multiple side ventures, leading industry insiders like Damon Martin of MMA Fighting to question whether his existing contract, stipulating he commentates only on shows within the United States, could accommodate the grueling production demands of a TV series that might require 22 episodes filmed over 7 days a week.
Não faz isso, não faz isso.
You can tap when you want out.
Não faz.
Don't do that, dude. Nobody wants to hear you. No one wants to listen to you.
Mas, ó, vou te falar.
Gotta tell you something.
Você acostuma ver a terra redonda, meu parceiro.
Get used to seeing the world.
UFC co-creator Campbell McLaren emphatically dismissed such speculation, tweeting, "Use some common sense here," yet Martin countered that Fox executives explicitly addressed Rogan by name during press briefings, underscoring how even the most authoritative voices can misjudge the machinations of network television and talent contracts. As the week drew to a close, these intersecting storylines, Dana's dual fight tease, Bones' confounding comeback, DC's coaching caper, Asia's officiating overhaul, Makhachev's scheduling mystery, Rachmanov's rehab, Aspinall's high-stakes blueprint, Muhammad's paradoxical ascent, Silva's fan backlash, and Rogan's rumored TV return coalesced into a singular truth. In the frenetic ecosystem of mixed martial arts, certainty is a fleeting commodity, and every announcement, denial, and post-fight scrum has the power to reshape careers, redirect futures, and redefine what we think we know, leaving fans perpetually on the brink of the next seismic revelation.